What is up, guys? Welcome to this video. In this one, I'm going to be telling you what is health. Now, this video is for anyone who wants to get a deeper understanding of what human well-being is. Now, when I was in first grade, we started to learn about health. We had a health class. And what they taught me in that class wasn't exactly the best. They really made health seem like it was this very simple thing that we kind of already know and we don't have to discuss it too much. And what's really important is that we just learn more math and science, which is very important. It is important that we learn that stuff. But the way that they taught health was deeply misinforming. They taught it in a way that kind of states that as long as you get your exercise and you eat the right foods, then you're well. And even the foods that they told us to eat weren't exactly the proper foods to eat. But I always, for my whole life, had a very naive idea about what health is until quite a few months ago, really. I think in about June. Until June, I started to contemplate what health is. And that was because I read a book called Toward a Psychology of Being by a man named Abraham Maslow, where what he did was he collected a bunch of data from the most psychologically evolved and psychologically healthy people that he could find. And he listed specific patterns, traits, values, ways of relating, ways of thinking, ways of feeling, ways of seeing reality that are very unusual in relationship to the average person. Now, when I read this book, and Abraham Maslow is the guy who coined the term self-actualization. When I read this book, he, in a sense, used the term health synonymously with self-actualization. And when I read when I read the book and I got the idea of how he was using the word health, I realized that there's so much complexity behind what he's talking about that it just goes absolutely unnoticed by so many people. And that this idea of health isn't a simple thing, but actually is deeply multifaceted and requires quite a lot, to be honest, to be well. Now, health has a lot of categories. And because I only have a limited amount of time in this video, I'm going to list some of the most important ones, although there's more. So treat this video like a brief introduction to health and well-being. And I'm going to give you some other resources as well. I'm just going to be listing some stuff even as the video goes on that can really help you understand what health is and get you more of an idea of what you need in order to be well and how to fix a lot of the problems that you currently actually have in your life, and you might not even see them as problems. Now, human well-being is a very rare thing. It's actually extremely rare to come across someone who is deeply well. And there's a lot of very complicated reasons as to why that is. There's a lack of education about it, and even the way we've even set up our society. I live in Canada, but the way we've basically set up Western culture basically makes it so that very few people are actually well. People are addicted to video games, poor food, alcohol, cigarettes, technology, and we are basically exploited very deeply by a lot of advertisers and marketers in order to just make a lot of money. So our most natural drives, our natural instincts, and our needs, the way that we are sort of, in a sense, naturally programmed to operate, this whole thing gets exploited so that people can make money. And this is unfortunately a trap that basically everyone I see and probably have ever met in my life has fallen into, myself included, pretty deeply. Now, I'm not like blaming anyone or like judging anyone when I say that, but it's just a sort of brutal fact that has to be swallowed, that the way that we actually live as a civilization is designed currently so that we are not well, so that profits are over health, which is a problem because when people aren't well, they have very high divorce rates. They have poor relationship problems. They have poor emotional intelligence. They do even poor science. We have poor understanding of the world around us. We're very arrogant. We vote for horrible politicians. We get terrible politicians going into office. Not only that, we have poor decision making. We don't know where to allocate resources because we don't have the clarity, the wisdom, the understanding, and the overall social, emotional, cognitive development or intelligence to actually live a profound life as an individual and even as a species in general. So this is a very complicated thing, and I got a little paper right here, and I'm going to write some of the categories that have to do with health. And this video is geared towards the individual. So I don't have, obviously, a complex solution for all of the world's problems. That's not what I'm saying. I'm basically just stating that the way things are set up right now is basically in a way so that people will have a lot of diseases, really, like mental illness, emotional dysfunction, physiological, basically chronic physiological tension, like uncontrollable tension in their gut, in raised shoulders, a closed chest, self-esteem issues, belongingness issues, insecurity and lack of safety, poor boundaries. Don't even get me started on how we're not even close to being self-actualized and how self-actualization is deeply rare. And anyone with a very comprehensive understanding of the world, this is a very rare person to come across. And really, all this stuff is necessary for well-being. Self-actualization is a human need, and when we don't get needs met, we get sick. So just like how you need calcium, when you don't get, vitamin K, vitamin A, B, C, D, calcium, any nutrients or mineral that you need, your body starts to develop deficiencies. You're deficient, and it starts to develop disease, really, in order to let you know that, hey, we're not doing well, we're not doing well, we're not doing well. It's basically like an alarm going off. And if a person doesn't get the safety they need, the physiological needs that they need, if they don't get the belongingness that they need, if they don't understand how to have healthy boundaries, if they don't get the self-esteem, self-worth that they need, if they don't get the growth needs that they need, if they don't feel connected to humanity as a whole, if they don't care about other people and how they feel and their problems and how do we actually fit people into like the larger whole of what the hell is going on here on planet Earth. When we, and if we're not self-actualized, when we don't get these needs met, all sorts of dysfunction starts to break loose. We get groups of people acting violent towards other people. We get culture wars as well. So when we can't even understand the value system of a liberal, and we can't understand the value system of a conservative, we can't understand where this all fits in, how to organize this information properly, and what needs people are trying to fulfill for a society and for individuals. When we can't figure this stuff out and think about it clearly without a hatred-filled, judgmental attitude that basically seeks to dominate the out-group and get our in-group to win, when we can't have that, we just have dysfunction. We have, obviously, violence amongst groups, whether it's sort of, actual physical violence or even emotional abuse or just fighting and arguing and bitterness altogether. And, I guess you guys can see where I'm going with this, that there's a lot of manifestations in our world, and even within you right now, that are signs of a lack of well-being. Like the most obvious one that I point to in a lot of my videos is body tension. That right now inside you, if you look into maybe your gut, maybe into your chest area, and even in your head, like your forehead might be like this, your gut is clenched, there's muscles fighting and tensed up, and they're sort of locked in like a stalemate, just trying to fight each other. And some parts of your body might not feel alive. They feel numb, they feel dead, they don't feel like there's life flowing through them, they just feel numb, like there's just nothing there. So these are all signs of emotional dysfunction. And clinging to poor beliefs, stuff like that. Stuff I'll be explaining very soon. So disease is everywhere. Disease is not just cough, cough. Disease is not just COVID. Disease is not just even basic mental illness, like depression. Like disease is rampant within humans, within you and me. Some people are more well than others, and some people are just loaded with disease. I'm not trying to judge people when I say that. I'm just saying that this is observably the case. Let's say we have, for example, a Nazi. Okay, so he exercises and he eats his fruits and vegetables, but he wants to kill Jews. Is he well? Is this guy healthy? So we can see that the entire orientation a person has towards life, towards other people, towards even money, towards even where mankind is going and what life is about and what we should value, what the most important things are in life, all of this comes together when it comes to our well-being. It doesn't matter if you eat fruits and vegetables and you exercise. If you have a horrible outlook on life, like everything is just disastrous and I hate these people and those people, this is disease. So something that I'm going to write down is the obvious. So first I'll write health. Health. Okay. Now I'll write down physical. And these categories aren't exactly, I'm going to write down a few more categories, aren't separate categories. And it's very hard to categorize this information properly that I'm going to be putting up on the board because they're so interconnected. So now I'll write down mental. This will be emotional. Here, I'll put social. And here, I'll put spiritual. Now, you get to look at it. So, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And don't be intimidated by this word, spiritual, because it doesn't mean that you need to have faith in Jesus Christ or anyone like that. So if you're an atheist, you can chill out. This word relates to how connected you actually feel to the universe that you're living in. So do you feel as though you are actually deeply connected to the origins of life itself? Or do you just kind of feel like some solid, separate entity sort of going through life, going through the motions? Or do you actually feel a sense of awe, curiosity, and connection to all of life around you, and a sense of inseparability to all of life around you? And this is one of the most interesting categories because there's such a, for starters, the word spiritual is already a loaded word. People have a bunch of ideas about that word, which is why I had to define it the second I wrote it down, because I know people will get the wrong idea. But this word, there's a lot of, just silly notions of what it is. And it's such a corrupted word. Like, one person's idea of spiritual is, let's say, dominating all of the other world's religions in favor of my religion, whereas my definition of spiritual is something radically different. So I just described it for you. Moving on. So we'll start with category number 1. And I'll draw some basic boundaries, okay? Here you go. So I guess it's not too nice, but this will do for now. Physical. What do I mean by physical? I mean your body. So I'll write down your body. Body. And see, this is a complicated one right off the bat. When I say the body, this relates to absolutely every single category in here, because your mind and your body are not these two separate things. Your mind and your emotional well-being, all of this actually plays out in your body. Your body is actually fantastic for letting you know whether you're well or not. So when you're hungry, for example, very obvious one, when your body is hungry, it's telling you we need food or else we're gonna die. When you're sleepy, it's saying we need rest or else we'll die. You know, if you don't get the rest you need, you will die, you'll break down. And when you aren't well mentally or emotionally, let's say you're frustrated, or you're forcing yourself on someone out of anger, that's a better example. Because now we're getting into the territory of manipulation. This plays out in your body. There's a sense of being rigid, being inflexible. There's a sense of contraction and tightness that occurs because your body can sense that this is not well-being. This whole way of relating to people is not conducive to my short and long-term health. And that this whole thing, if I want to be well, has to change. So for the physical, I'll just put body, and I'll even put rest, like sleep. But rest is another complicated one, because rest also relates to your mind. I can't endlessly write down these ideas. I can't endlessly sort of read. I have to shut this thing off after a while and just go for a walk and just look at a tree and feel the grass. I have to get out of my head. So my mind needs rest. All of this basically requires rest of some sort. Now, like I said, I don't want you to think about these categories as though they're all separate from one another. I want you to get that there's a complex relationship between each one of these categories. That this is not separate from this, this is not separate from this, this isn't separate from this, but all of this is actually one system. So when this is, destroyed, let's say your body is destroyed, you can't do too well here, 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 or here. So it's important to realize that this is one system. This is all one organism, basically. This is all one inseparable system. Everything is just one, okay? So I hope you got that one. Now, I guess I can move on a little bit to the mental. I'll stay on this side. Still works. Here, I'll just have, let's say, beliefs. Beliefs slash, I'll just leave it there. Beliefs, I was going to write ideology, but I will leave it there. Beliefs are good enough. Beliefs, and I'll even write flexibility, like mental flexibility. Because being mentally flexible is important for your well-being. Now, emotional, I'll write healthy, you know what? Instead of that, I'll write emotional intelligence. So that's basically that one. I'll just leave it there, even though these are all more complicated than I'm even leading them on to be. Social, I'll write relationships. Relationships. Another one is I'll write authenticity. For spiritual, I'll write universal connection and I'll write mystery. And I will explain that very shortly. So we have the basics now, basically. The basics now, basically. Oh God, okay, that's I gotta redo that. I can't live with that. It's gotta be clearer than that. Okay, mystery. Now, I'll explain this at the end. But I've already went through physical. Now we have mental. So, mental is not only like depression or anxiety. This is all, I'm gonna leave stuff like that for emotional. What I mean by mental is more so with just thinking. Just thinking. Now, when a person has a belief system, which we all do, this is a part of being human, for as long as we're human and we have a mind, we have a belief system. When a person has a belief system and is extremely close-minded and attached to this belief system, this is disease. Now, I want you to think about it like this. When someone has a belief and it's threatened by someone else, like just by, questioning it, like just a simple questioning of their beliefs, not an attack, let's say the guy is not even attacking their belief system. Let's just say like we're asking questions about the belief. Let's say we're asking questions about science. How do we know that science will deliver us to the truth about the world we live in? How do we even know that? Because we don't even have it yet. We're doing a lot of science and we really don't have it. We're very clueless actually as to where anything really came from. And the Big Bang doesn't really answer too much, if we're honest, because now where did that come from? So, we just have more questions. Every answer, we just have more questions. So, it seems as though we can play this game forever, that the answer we get generates 20 new questions, and then more answers that we get from those questions generate even more questions. And we can just go on and on and on. Although I'm not saying not to do science, I'm not attacking science. I am saying that just how do we know that this is all there is, really? Like just science, because science is like, it's pretty closed, to be honest. It's not very open to anything outside of the realm of science. Which isn't me attacking science, it's just a fair criticism of it. What if we have to expand the boundaries of what is valid science? What if there's something that's true that modern science can't prove with our current methods? So we have to be seriously open to that. If we want to get to truth, if we want to really get the world that we live in and understand it, we have to be able to be flexible with our beliefs and willing to change them, willing to drop them entirely, and be at ease with it. Have a sense of equanimity about it. Not be forceful, not be closed, not be fighting people about it, but have a more detached relationship to our beliefs. Be more aware of them. Be more aware of how they actually control us and how we aren't really in control of them. It seems to be the other way around, actually, if you look closely. But a lot of our beliefs dictate the things that we're going to do in life. For something very practical, let's say I see a very pretty girl. I like pretty girls, and I want to go talk to her. Well, if I think that I'm worthless, which is a limiting belief about myself, which is probably not too healthy to have, I'm not going to go do it because I'm just going to get rejected anyway, and I'm worthless. And now, if I can just see that that's a belief. That's a belief that's going to dictate my behavior. It's going to get me to walk away from a potentially great relationship, or maybe a horrible relationship, because, these are all beliefs. We've got to be open to every possibility here. We have to actually see that our beliefs are driving behavior and be open to changing them, to questioning them, to actually seeing if they're true, rather than holding on to them and basically assuming that they just are true because, screw it. We actually have to have some intellectual honesty and say that, okay, like, these are my beliefs, these are my biases, these are my assumptions. We can see if they're true or not. We have to test them out. And I don't know even how we might test them. Maybe this will work, maybe that won't work. And we have to be very careful of the directions that we move in. Things have to be validated through direct observation and through direct experience. Because if you haven't directly experienced something, you don't really know whether it's true or not. For example, atoms, are they real? A-T-O-M-S. Are they real? Atoms. I actually haven't ever seen an atom with my own eyes, so it's a belief. I heard someone say atoms when I was like 12 or something, whenever I started learning science, probably like 8, 9, and then I just believed it. I have seen cells though, so cells, I do know, are real. So you have to get that a lot of the stuff that you're conditioned with as well, and even the stuff that you actually create a lot of beliefs in order to protect yourself. That's the dominant function of beliefs, is to protect yourself. It's about survival. So a lot of this stuff drives behavior that isn't exactly healthy, isn't exactly good for long-term well-being or short-term well-being. When this starts to, get questioned, we get very pissed off and defensive. Why? Because it's showing some sort of shadow or unconscious element in us that at one point was very vulnerable. And then we had to develop a belief to feel supported by it. So when you question someone's ideas of what reality is, whether reality is material, whether it's not material, whether God created it, whether there is no God, it doesn't matter what the belief is. When you start questioning it, you find that a lot of people start to get very uncomfortable very fast. And that's because we use these to defend ourselves. This helps us to explain the world we live in, which helps us to feel safe. We use our ideas to feel safe. If we can't explain the world we live in, if we can't explain our environment, we feel unsafe, because now we have a sense of not knowing, and not knowing generally to humans is very scary. So for example, humans are terrified of death even though we have no idea what it is. Why? Because we don't know what it is. It could be terrible. That's the sort of automatic sort of standpoint of people in general, really. We just are very fearful of the unknown because we don't know. It could be horrible. So we have to be open to changing our beliefs. And I'm going to go back to the body for a second, because I didn't really do too much. I'll just leave it like that. So the body, the physical. This has to do with the most standard stuff that you've heard when it comes to health, like eating the right foods, staying on a diet, actually being disciplined enough to value your diet and the long-term clarity and overall health that a good diet will provide for you. And a good diet is a part of all of this. If you eat McDonald's, you're going to have trouble doing every one of these. It's going to make it way harder for you. Whereas if you're eating fruits, vegetables, lots of water, fruit salads and fruit smoothies, all these light foods. Whereas if you're eating massive plates of pasta, loaded with gluten, a lot of meat, a lot of whatever, McDonald's, there's a loss of clarity that happens. So a lot of the stuff we eat actually sabotages the rest of our life. Like, a lot of people are very smart, but they're stuck eating such crap food, which then they can't think well. They don't have the cognitive clarity. Their emotions are horrible because because your body just feels terrible. It's very lethargic. It's telling you that we can't eat this food, but you don't have the emotional intelligence and the body awareness to know that, oh yeah, when I eat a Big Mac, I feel terrible. Or when I eat, large plates of pasta, I want to go to sleep. When I eat a whole steak, this is probably too much for my body to handle. It's a massive steak. Don't eat a massive steak. So when it comes to rest now, I'll leave it at that for diet. I'm sure you've heard enough about that kind of stuff. Seems to be the sort of popular, it seems to be pretty popular to talk about. And it's very difficult actually to stay on a good diet. If you can stay on a really good diet, it's like a serious accomplishment, to be honest. I stay on a very good diet. It's not easy. It took me years to clean it up to the point where I don't really care at all about eating junk food. When I see junk food, I genuinely don't want it. It's not like I have to fight myself. It's not like I'm reaching for the donut and one arm's going and the other arm's back and I'm fighting myself. It's like I genuinely don't want it because I prefer clarity. I prefer feeling well in my body. I prefer being able to think well. I prefer being able to feel what other people are feeling and relate to them well because I'm open enough and the food has nourished me so that I can be better when I'm talking to people, and I feel connected to the world around me because I'm just well. I'm happy. I'm doing okay. And yeah, so moving on, rest. Rest is insanely important. Now, in the culture I live in, Western culture, Western civilization, I live in Canada, we don't value rest. We value endless growth, endless productivity, which is a myth. There is no such thing as endless growth and endless productivity. We will all die and will burn out. There's no endless growth forever. That's just a lack of long-term thinking. Now, when it comes to growth, we all like growth. I'm not saying we shouldn't grow. We have to get that our well-being and our rest actually dictates the depth and the rate at which we can grow at. So when you have workers, for example, who are exhausted, a lot of people are very tired working 40-hour work weeks. It's not easy. It's very hard to do good work of any kind, even inside work, because people are exhausted. They're sick of sitting at their desk. They're sick of the same places. They need rest. They need change. They gotta sleep. They gotta eat well. They gotta talk to people. They gotta, read some books, do some meditation, stretch their body, go to the gym. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of maintenance that comes with being human. I'm sure you're all pretty aware of it, I hope. I hope you're all brushing your teeth, eating food, maybe stretching sometimes, some exercise. This stuff, what is this? This is just maintenance work. This is just what it takes to maintain a body and have it run for 80 to 100 years and then have it pass away peacefully. This is just the stuff that has to happen, or else you just have a lot of unnecessary problems that happen. But so back to rest. Humans need far more rest than we need productivity. How much time do you spend sleeping? That's rest. Eating, any sense of rejuvenation and maintenance work is rest. I consider that rest. Like even having a shower. A lot of this I consider just maintaining your body, really. This is all sort of associated with rest and homeostasis, really. That's really what I'm trying to get at, is homeostasis. Your tendency to want to maintain yourself. So eating, sleeping, going to the bathroom, stuff like this. We need a lot more of that than productivity. Now, the way that we have everything set up right now, the way we do our work weeks, the 40-hour work week, which is almost 100 years old. It was made in 1926 by, I think, Henry Ford. It's damn near impossible to be well working these hours. Most people don't like their jobs, and that's a whole other issue. But most people are stressed, they're overworked, and on top of that, they don't know how to feel good. This is something that I've observed about humanity basically my whole life, is that people have absolutely no idea just how to feel good. And this is not an easy thing to understand. And I don't claim to just be up in the clouds and bliss all day myself, but that, because of the environment I grow up in and the country I grow up in, it's a lot easier to be well. But people need serious education on health and how to feel good, which is what this video is. So with the 40-hour work weeks, it's insanely hard to find the time to meditate, which is essential for well-being, do some yoga, go to the gym. Where do you find this energy? You've spent the whole day working, and then you got to come home and take care of the kids. It's insanely difficult. It's impossible, really. There's a lot of stress, depression, anxiety, loneliness, worry, insecurity, and all of this is obviously disease. What I'm talking about, all of that is disease. It's not health. So rest is actually essential for good work. You actually can't do good work if you aren't properly nourished and you're not clear and you don't go to sleep. Try not going to sleep and then going to work next day. See how well you do. So we actually undervalue rest to a pretty scary degree, to be honest, because we have myths of endless growth of all kinds. Now, people who get the rest they need are actually very good workers for the most part. Maybe some people can be a bit lazy, but when people feel valued, because this is a basic need, this is about belongingness, this is all about health. When people feel valued, when they get even the pay that they feel they deserve for the work that they're putting in, when they get the breaks that they deserve, people actually generally want to do pretty good work. Like, I cannot come up here and make this video if I don't get the rest and the amount of clarity that I need to be able to even contemplate these topics. And when you have people who feel underpaid, they don't feel valued, they feel like they're being scammed by their employers and like their full-time job is someone else's passive income, and they're overworked, you actually can't do good work. This is going to completely screw up your ability to do high quality work. You're going to make sloppy errors. You're going to get into arguments at work. You're not going to handle customers too well. You're not going to handle your personal relationships too well. You're going to have a lot of personal life problems that are going to come in to your workplace and affect you in your workplace. So humans need a lot of time to rest, sit still, and actually reflect and contemplate what is actually important in life. What matters to me? What do I need to be well? What do I need to be at ease? What are the things I have to set up, the habits I have to install in my life so that I can maintain higher degrees of well-being, overall well-being? Even here, I can put clarity, so I'm only going to put, it's good. It's good for now. So I want you to see how complicated well-being is, that your idea of well-being was probably very half-baked, really. It wasn't enough. And number two, to survive in the sort of social realm that we've set up and be well is very hard. It's insanely difficult. I'm not saying, when I criticize a 40-hour work week, I'm not saying like abolish it. Like I'm not attacking anything. I'm not saying this is simple stuff. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying it's insanely complicated, and I've already said I don't have the answers to everything. But what I'm saying is that the way it is, we can't be well. And that when we don't value human well-being, we get a lot of unnecessary hostility of any kind. And of course, mankind has seen a lot of hostility. There's a lot of hostility within each and every one of us, even towards ourselves. People are loaded with criticizing themselves, guilting themselves, shaming themselves. So, rest is absolutely essential to do any real high quality work in life. Rest is more essential than productivity, but the way we operate in our culture, it kind of contradicts what I just said, and it doesn't work. This sort of mentality of I get up at 4 a.m. and I only get 4 hours of sleep. People are addicted to work because they have so many emotional problems that their work is actually an escape from that. And working hard, this sounds great. Work hard. This sounds great. Everyone likes the idea of being productive and working hard. But a good habit done with a poor intention is no longer a good habit. It's now a way of fostering disease. So having a bunch of people who are addicted to their jobs isn't exactly healthy. I'll leave it at that. And a lot of workaholics, these people have very poor relationships. They're too absorbed in their work. And to be honest, I actually suffer from this problem. I am very absorbed in the kinds of work I do, the kinds of research I do, the reading, writing, my whole life schedule. It means a lot to me. And I really love it. But sometimes if I don't complete the stuff that I want to complete, I get frustrated, which is actually disease. So I'm just trying to really implant in you just a general sense of how complicated well-being is in this video. So I hope I have convinced you on the importance of rest in relationship to your relationships, in relationship to your workplace and the kinds of work you do and the effectiveness at which you're working. Because we need effective workers too. Like, how do we actually create effective workers? You know, a lot of people aren't effective workers. And it's not just because they're dumb and they're lazy and they don't work hard enough. A lot of it is because they aren't well. They're drinking Coca-Cola. They have attention problems because of the heavy metals inside of the Coca-Cola. It's affecting their brain health. It's affecting their emotional health, mental health. So it's actually even affecting their relationships. How can you be well in a relationship if 1, 2, and 3 are completely out of whack? You're going to screw up 4 and 5 as well. So there's a lot of interesting questions that relate to well-being. Effective workers have to be well. Effective workers need rest. They need to be valued. They need a fair paycheck. They need time off, time to spend with their loved ones, time to connect with the people they care about, time to contemplate and meditate and sit still and actually address emotional issues. They actually have to notice that, holy crap, I need therapy, because everyone needs therapy. If you read any high-quality books written by psychotherapists, it is immediately clear to you that, holy crap, everyone has a load of problems that they don't actually have the personal honesty to admit. They don't have the guts to admit to themselves, never mind other people, and they don't even have the honesty to investigate what's happening inside of them with clarity and state it to themselves directly that, yeah, I actually have a lot of emotional issues. And just state it that clear. And just have that degree of honesty and that willingness to see what's true about you. Moving on. I guess we'll go to emotional intelligence. My God, this is a huge one. I have an entire playlist on understanding emotions. So, emotional intelligence. I will walk over here. I don't really know where to begin with this one. Emotional intelligence basically relates, in a sense, here. There's this whole book right here on emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And then the one right below it is social intelligence by the same author, Daniel Goleman. So if you want, look at those. But emotional intelligence doesn't just mean feeling good all day, but it's actually understanding why the emotion is arising, what its purpose is, and also how to create more pleasant emotions of, openness and ease and awe and even, I want to say motivation, but more so like exploration. Not motivation like you're constantly driven, but just a willingness to explore the world you're in. A sense of joy and just wonder. A sense of, overall clarity, feeling light. And then also an ability to understand why we don't feel that way and not hating it, not judging it. Also our ability to not, and this relates to the social domain, there's a deep connection between everything, like I said, an ability to not impose our emotions onto others. Like we're angry and we start forcing our ideas and our feelings onto others. We start manipulating people. And manipulation is kind of the norm for humans. That's kind of a brutal word, manipulation, but this is the case. Check out my video. I think it's called Manipulation and Anger, or Anger and Manipulation. And that's only, it's not even the tip of the iceberg with that one. But a lot of our emotional system is designed to manipulate, to get things that we want. For example, we feel sadness and a sense of lack. Let's say we just feel a sense of lack. This is designed to get us to go out and get the things that we want. And if you feel enough lack, like you don't have safety, you don't have any money, you don't even have the food you need to survive, you will not care about anything other than getting these most basic things met. You'll rob a store and you'll run into a grocery store and eat an apple without even paying for it. If you're gonna die, you'll do that. You don't have enough well-being and health within you to care about, I have to pay for this apple because these people work hard to deliver me the food and they deserve money. You won't even have this sort of decency, not even enough sort of clarity, to sort of think that, oh yeah, if I eat this apple without paying for it, I can get in trouble with the law. A more selfish reason to not pay for an apple. But whatever. So this relates to our ability to just understand emotions and why they're there, what they're doing, and also how to heal and integrate a lot of the stuff about ourselves that we didn't like when we were very young. Like fear, insecurity, anger, sadness, loneliness. And these emotions don't go anywhere. These emotions stick around to drive our behavior unconsciously without us knowing it. And on top of that, we will say to ourselves that the reason why we do the things that we do is because we're such great people and we're so fantastic and we're so loving and caring, when in reality, that is the case sometimes, yeah. But also there might be a sense of loneliness or sadness or anger that's driving a lot of our behavior. For example, let's say we get into a relationship. Why did we get into the relationship? Let's list some motivations for getting into a relationship. One, we'll list some nice ones. Because we're in love and we love them. This is great. We all like to be in love and love people. It's all fantastic. Next, we want to feel connection. We feel connected to this person and, oh, they're the one, and, my soulmate and all this fantastic stuff. This is great, And let's say that we care about the person. We care so much. Oh, we care so much. And this is all great. I'm not entirely making fun of this stuff. I kind of am. It's in my attitude right now that I'm kind of making fun of it. Not like that is the case. That is there. But it's just the fact that we are so fixed on this sort of idealistic fluff that we don't actually notice some of the brutal aspects of ourselves that are driving our behavior. Like we got into a relationship because we felt lonely, we felt sad, we want someone to make me feel special, make me feel good, make me feel like I have, like I'm worthy. A lot of this stuff drives our behavior when it comes to relationships, and even the reason why we want or did get into a relationship. So even insecurity. So a lot of the reasons why we get into relationships, some are fantastic, some are very selfless and visionary. Like, we both have a similar direction in life that seeks to help thousands of people, whatever it is. We love each other and we care for each other, and we want to get each other's needs met because we care about each other so much. This is great, and in a lot of cases, this is true. Yeah, you care about the person that you're with. It's an authentic caring. There's an actual sense of like, regardless of whether this person stays with me, I still care and love them. If that's there, like regardless of what happens, I still want the best for this person. If that's there, then there's a lot of authenticity behind the I love them. But there's also a sense of like, I want something. There's a lot of selfish reasons too, like I want to have sex, I want to feel safe, I want to feel secure. And selfish isn't bad. There's no moral attachment to selfish. This just means it's me-centered. It's more about me. It's not about them. It's not about being in love and caring about them. It's about like, I want something, kind of like a business transaction. It's like I'm going in there and I'm going to negotiate a deal. But instead, whatever. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons for why we get into a relationship, and I'll just run through them. We care about the person, we feel connected to them, we love them, and we work well together. Okay, we want sex, we want security, we want to feel special, we want to feel not lonely. So there's loneliness driving our desire to connect. It's a fear of being alone. We have other insecurities, like we have a lack of, I guess I mentioned safety. We want someone to make us feel like we have a sense of self-worth, or that we matter in the world. We want a sense of mattering and belongingness. So there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of fantastic stuff that I'm sure we'll agree on that are fantastic. But there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure we can agree on that I'm not gonna say aren't fantastic, but it's stuff that people generally don't want to see because they are very attached to their sort of, viewing themselves in like this heroic, positive light. Like that they're all good and can do no wrong, when in actuality, there's a lot of sort of egoic, selfish drives within them that they just don't like to admit to themselves. And it's not a problem that those are here. It's not a bad thing. That's how we live. Selfishness is how we live. I want food. I want to eat food. I had dinner before I made this video. That's a very selfish act. What am I doing when I'm eating dinner? It's all about me. I want food. I'm not going out there to feed the children and, the poor orphan children. It's about me. I want to live. And there's nothing wrong with that. And let's even go a little bit deeper. Something has to die in order for me to live, regardless of whether it's an animal or a plant. Something has to be killed so that I can live. I had celery, and I had rice pasta, which doesn't have gluten in it. And it's pretty good for you. It's made just from brown rice. I had it with some tomato sauce. It was good. So yeah, celery and some rice pasta. Fantastic. Tasted fantastic. But these are all plants. These are all living things that had to die in order for me to continue living. And there's nothing bad about that. That's just one of the observations of what I did. I had to kill something in order to live. That's not a nice way to frame eating dinner. No one likes to frame it to themselves in that way. But that's essentially what we're doing. We are killing stuff in order to live. That's what we're doing when we're eating. But instead, it's more, we want to view ourselves in a positive light that makes us seem so loving and caring and selfless, when in actuality, a lot of the stuff that's going on inside of us isn't that at all. And there's nothing wrong with anything that I just said, whether it's getting into a relationship because you're lonely. There's nothing bad about that. What is important, especially in the context of this video, is what is healthier? What is the healthy decision to make? Is trapping a bunch of animals in a slaughterhouse to murder them and sell them for $4.49 a pound? I mean, is this healthy? And they're basically tortured in some cases. They're locked up. It's brutal. They're like months old. Is this healthy? But people do, need this to live. I'm not saying that we should stop that, because, the animals, I mean, it's a shame animals die, of course. I don't want things to suffer. But when people work construction for 8 hours a day, they're at the side of the road, they're digging holes, they're fixing the wires. It's very hard to survive off lettuce, People need meat because this is very sustaining. So it's a complicated issue. And a lot of our survival and a lot of the things, like I said, a lot of the things that we've set up in the world around us and a lot of the stuff that we depend on for our survival are not healthy. So that's a massive thing that I want you to get, that a lot of the ways that we're living isn't healthy. And that goes for us individually. I don't want you to watch this and then go on strike with a massive sign screaming, but I actually want you to more so clean it up within yourself. Notice that you have an inability, maybe, to maintain a healthy diet, to exercise, to investigate your emotions that are driving a lot of your behaviors that might not be very conducive to your health. And I want you to get how difficult this actually is. I want you to get that this takes courage to do, to actually recognize dysfunction and disease within yourself, to be your own whistleblower, and to clean it up in a compassionate and detached and, in a sense, slow and steady way. Because growth and change of any kind has to happen in a very slow and steady way. It doesn't happen rapidly, or else people start to get scared. It has to happen at a very specific rate. And when you start to go past that rate, people get very nervous and scared because too much stuff is changing. There's too much unpredictability. And we like predictability. It makes us feel safe. Makes it feel like we know what's going on. So, emotional, yeah. This is probably the most complicated. It's not exactly the most complicated one, but it's one of the most hardest ones to talk about because this also relates to our tendency to fight our own feelings and to tense up and to battle ourselves and to resist and struggle against ourselves. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of self-struggle, self-sabotage, self-criticism, tension, one muscle fighting another muscle, clashing at it until they're just at a stalemate and they're both tense. Basically just at a stalemate. So emotional intelligence is absolutely necessary for well-being. There's just no disputing that if you have any understanding of what it means to be well. Now, moving on, we'll go to social. The people you surround yourself with are huge. Are you hanging out with people who care about well-being? Or what are you guys doing on a Friday, Saturday night? Are you guys, eating pizza? Do your friends just sit around, play video games, drinking beer, eating pizza, talking about who the hot babes are? Is this healthy? I mean, hey man, I'm a straight guy. We like hot girls, okay, great. But this whole attitude, this whole outlook on life, is this healthy? Is this the deepest vision and the deepest purpose that you have for your life? Is this the highest vision that you have for your life? Is this really what life is about? Is just the pizza, beer, video games, and hot girls? And this is all great. You have a great time. Sometimes like to have some pizza. I like entertainment too. I like good movies. I watched The Princess Bride not too long ago. I gotta watch, what I gotta watch is The Raiders of the Lost Ark by Indiana Jones. Not by Indiana Jones, by Steven Spielberg, I think, and George Lucas. It's the Indiana Jones movie. I think it came in the 80s. Haven't watched that. It's apparently really good, but I gotta get on that. So, I like entertainment. Entertainment is great. There's some fantastic works of art that I would highly recommend looking at. Some of my favorite movies, Mississippi Burning, The Sting, even Lord of the Rings is fantastic. Toy Story, these are works of art. These are genius. I love entertainment. But when this is all your life is about, and you have a habit of just entertainment, pizza, beer, and then going to go pick up girls, this lacks vision of any kind. This lacks any real, deep degrees of health as well, because life is much more complicated than that. And what it means to be well, or what it takes to be well and to be happy, is a lot more than that. That's actually just not going to work. Those four things of beer, video games, pizza, and girls, this is short-term pleasure, but it's not going to work long-term. And ideally, the people that you hang around, back to the social situation, the social component, the people that you hang around have to value long-term health, long-term vision, while also being able to have some short-term fun. Like, hey, let's go to a party, let's go explore something, I found this cool thing. They have to be kind of spontaneous, but also not to the point where they sacrifice their long-term vision and their health, their overall health, for some sort of short-term pleasure. So the people that you are in relationship to and are around are very important. If the people are emotionally abusive, they're manipulating you, they're angry and they're forcing themselves on you, and you feel like they're threatening your boundaries with their sort of volatile emotions, these people, you probably shouldn't spend too much time around that, because you can sense this whole emotional energy to the situation is not well. This isn't healthy, long term or short term. It feels terrible, and that feeling of just disease, really. The whole point is to get you to leave. It's this isn't helpful to your health. That's what's going on there. Authenticity is huge as well. So when people are violating your boundaries, they're getting extremely angry at you, what do you do? Do you manipulate them back, which is inauthentic? Manipulation isn't an authentic move. Manipulation is the exact opposite of authenticity. They're at odds with each other. Or do you just assert your boundaries? You state what they're doing and how, you can't treat me that way. You can't be, treating me X, Y, and Z. If we're going to be together, we're going to be friends or anything, this can't happen. We have to correct this. Okay, we have to change this. This isn't healthy. Even like the stuff you talk about too. Are you just endlessly judging people and talking shit? Like, is this authentic? Of course it isn't. This is not authentic. Your authentic self is not manipulation and talking shit. Your authentic self is much more like a child, like a wondrous, like a child who's looking at the world for the first time. A lot of our authentic self has been covered up by beliefs and patterns and emotional energy stored in our body and tension, because we couldn't be authentic and survive at the same time in the environments that we grew up in. We had to adapt to them and sacrifice our authenticity in order to survive. So this idea of being authentic isn't some hippy-dippy idea. This relates to your ability to be well in the social domain. It relates to your ability to have integrity to who you are and not force it onto other people, but also even respect other people and realize that people play very important roles. They have very distinct personality types. They care more about very distinct needs that, will help people. Some people care a lot about infrastructure. That's important for a society. Some people care a lot about well-being. That's important for a society. Some people care more about teaching. That's important for a society. People have different personality types. They care about different needs. And that this is all very important to have a fully functioning society that is well. And when we value one need it's completely out of whack and out of balance with another need, then disease starts to happen. Like when we value endless productivity and endless growth, and we don't care about rest or reflection or health, yeah, of course we're all sick because we don't care about health. We have no idea what it means to be well. We don't know how to construct systems that revolve around, of course, having a society that thrives, but also the people who are doing the hard labor, them being well too. And none of this is simple stuff. Like I said, I've said this too many times in this video. I'm not going to say it again. None of that is simple stuff. I don't have the answers. I'm just saying it's very complicated and there's a lot of traps to fall into in our society, and you got to watch out. So authenticity has a lot to do with being honest towards yourself, being honest towards others, not hiding, not avoiding, not running away, not deceiving others, not deceiving yourself. And deception is massive amongst humans, and we unconsciously deceive. We'll deceive and say lies without even knowing it. That's a massive part of human nature, actually, is self-deception and unconscious deception. Now, the social domain I put on here, and it's insanely important because, of course, we're social creatures and we need this domain to get our needs met. So people have to learn how to have healthy relationships and be authentic and state their needs in a clear way, and even how to attract the opposite sex, how to find high-quality friends, how to find an employer who cares about you, how to find how to find a great community to live in. Stuff like this, And also, how to do that without sacrificing what matters to you. And that's not an easy thing. Like I said, health is complicated. Health is complex. Moving on to the spiritual side. Like I said, don't be intimidated by this word. This just has a lot to do with our actual connection to sort of foundational building blocks of this world, to our consciousness, really, to our awareness, to our interconnectedness. We all share the same universe. We all share the same reality. We all are a part of the exact same world, and we are all ultimately the exact same reality. This reality that I am is not some new or distinct separate reality from you. We are sharing the exact same existence. And what happens to you, your suffering, is my suffering, and vice versa. So when we feel disconnected from each other, when we feel like it doesn't matter whether this person suffers or not, and whatever, we are also usually very emotionally out of whack. We usually have some garbage belief system that we're very attached to. Our body's usually very tense and rigid. And socially, we're probably, we lack empathy. We lack an ability to connect with the people who suffer. And we lack a sense of just connection to the world that we live in. And how mysterious it all is. Because the world is very mysterious. We're very clueless about really what this stuff is. Like where it came from. You know? How it's all interacting in the way that it is and not some other way, you know? Why do atoms behave the way that they do and not some other way? Why do humans behave this way and not some other way? And there's a lot of different explanations for this kind of stuff. For example, people you can think of in terms of evolutionary theory. That's one idea. You can think in terms of trauma. That's another theory. You can think in terms of health and well-being. That's another theory. That's another perspective. You can think in terms of their level of consciousness, their value system, a lot of stuff, upbringing and environment, environmental factors, the parents, the country, all this kinds of stuff, the stuff they were exposed to. So it's very complicated stuff. This is just why one person behaves the way that they do. Never mind our entire universe. So there's a irreducible sense of mystery and wonder and awe at the world we live in, and that there's a sense of also, like, it's just profound that this can even exist at all. Like, that also has to be there. That you don't lose your sense of curiosity about the world. Like a child, when it sees a dog for the first time, and, you know, I'm sure we've all seen babies, not even a dog, when it's just a baby sitting there and it's got his eyes open, just like that. You know, it's just in awe. You know, it picks up a pine cone. It doesn't even say, this is a pine cone and it's got this amount of volume and mass and it's made out of atoms and molecules and this is it. It looks at it and it's just really like curious about what is this? Like, how does this exist? Like, what is the existence of a pine cone? Like, what is my hand? How do I have a hand? And also, to get you a better idea of what the spiritual dimension is, our minds and our thinking likes to completely oversimplify reality. Hand is a very deep oversimplification of what this is. There's a whole bunch of cells self-organizing in a very complicated way, with blood flowing, being pumped by my heart, regulated by parts of my brain. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. I had to eat specific foods that interacted well with my body so that I could live, to create a well-functioning hand with healthy skin that's moisturized, that has a certain amount of water, H2O, which has other sort of elements in it that all relate to each other in a very specific way to create hand, but our mind just goes hand. It ignores all the complexity and it just goes hand, computer, ukulele, video, Lucas, me, this is me. It ignores all the complexity that goes into all of existence. Thought basically works to simplify reality. And it does a damn good job of it. Our thoughts are dominantly designed for survival until you're able to go high enough in your psychological development, and then survival is something you can kind of move past. You don't really, it's always there, but it's that it functions smoothly. You have your needs met in a healthy way, and then you can move on to self-actualization and self-transcendence, and you can care about health. You can care about topics like this. Because if I don't have food, I don't care about freaking spiritual health. What the hell is this? I care about apples. You know, this is the most important thing to my mind. Because if I don't get this, my stomach is gonna, you know, whatever. Everything shuts down. My stomach is gonna be in a lot of pain. So there's a sense of connection just to the raw fabric of reality and to the sense of mystery that, like, the world kind of is. You know, there's a sense of like, just like, what the hell is going on here? Like, how is any of this existing? You know, there's just a connection to stuff like this. People like Albert Einstein, very big on that. Erwin Schrödinger, Jesus Christ, Buddha. Who are some guys nowadays? Peter Ralston, Adyashanti, Eckhart Tolle, even Jim Carrey. Who else? Scott Barry Kaufman. He's a guy. He is in fact a guy. He's a dude. Yeah, he wrote this book called Transcend. I'm reading it right now. This is another good one that tells you a lot about well-being, human well-being. He has quite a lot of that. Abraham Maslow, a lot of the best scientists, the most profound people from almost any tradition. Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, a lot of fantastic historians. Even, yeah, like a lot of the authors that I read from have quite a lot of this. And it's a very healthy thing to have. And it's very essential for well-being. We can't ignore, the world we live in, what it is, how we should even relate to it, and how we even go about figuring it out, and how we even go about discovering what it is, and what we think it is, and maybe how we're wrong about that, or maybe how we're right about that, or maybe how we're both partly wrong and partly right about that. So I guess that sums this one up. Health is one hell of a topic. I hope you learned that. And I'll give you some resources like I promised. Transcend, like I said, Transcend by Scott Barry Kaufman. Scott Barry Kaufman. Transcend, the new science of self-actualization. I hope you got it. I hope you got it. You can find it on Amazon. You can get Toward a Psychology of Being by Abraham Maslow. You can get a book called Bringing Your Shadow Out of the Dark by Robert Augustus Masters. You can look up a man named Sadhguru, Sadhguru. He is an Indian, I guess, like yogi, kind of guru teacher, who owns the Isha Yoga Foundation, which is geared towards increasing people's well-being and even the planet's well-being. He's doing Save Soil right now. It's a massive mission. It's very inspiring, actually. This guy's very profound. You can look at healing developmental trauma, like the politics of trauma. You can just look at even Gabor Mate. I don't know if you can see this book. The Myth of Normal is a good one. Even In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts. You can look up the humanistic psychologists like, let's say, Eric Fromm, The Art of Loving, The Art of Being. You can look up Carl Rogers, A Way of Being. These are all about human psychological health. And obviously, you can look up, diets for you, exercises, what you need. You can look up books on social intelligence. Social Intelligence right here by Daniel Goleman. You can look up David Data. He's a relationship coach. Very important for the social domain. Spiritual, you can look up Peter Ralston. You can look up Adyashanti. These people are masters. You can look at how Einstein, viewed a lot of things as well. Einstein's a very good one. I mentioned a lot already, that one. Emotional intelligence, I already said. Daniel Goleman for the book Emotional Intelligence. You can even look at Howard Gardner and the theory of multiple intelligences. You can look at personality types, stuff like that. You can look up developmental psychology as well, spiral dynamics, ego development theory, moral development theory. These are all very valuable resources, and I think I've given you enough. This is honestly stuff that could take years. This is very complicated stuff. That's all I'm going to give you for now. I hope that's enough stuff for you to, get excited about. So health is not simple. Health is deeply oversimplified, and it's actually cringe that we oversimplify it to the degrees that we do. That, if I just lift these weights and then I just eat this protein, I'm healthy. People can have muscles and not be well. People can exercise and not be well. People can eat healthy and still not be well. Although this stuff is great, if you want to build muscles, go ahead. If you want to exercise, exercise and diet is obviously, like I said, very important, but it's more complicated than this. So if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. And other than that, take it easy.